Welcome to another edition of Big Kev's World here with Leon Calavera, Scorpion Death Drop, Nate the effing great, and we're here because a 77-year-old man has finally retired from the WWE, a thing where nobody ever thought in a million years that this man would retire. But Vincent Kennedy McMahon is gone. Um, so, what was your first thought, Nate, when you heard about Vince is gone?
Honestly, I just heard about this not too long ago, and even my dad brought it up. He was just saying, "Oh, did you know Vince retired?" I said, "Yeah, no, it's really crazy." And first reaction is immediately just like, "Oh, thank God, finally we get some good things in WWE." But as it's kind of sinking in, it's kind of one of those things where I feel bad for having that reaction, just because despite all the allegations and despite everything that Vince McMahon has done, trust me, we could talk so much about the bad things that he has done. He is still one of the key gems that created professional wrestling and sports entertainment. People may disagree with that, but it's hard to deny the success that he had from the 80s all the way to present day. He created that success. He created an empire. He created something that everybody can watch and can either enjoy or criticize, honestly.
What about you, Leon? What was your first thoughts when you heard he was gone?
When I saw I actually found it out from a Facebook group chat I was in. I'm like, wait, is this for real? So I had to go on Twitter, and I have Twitter now for those who don't know. So I had to go on Twitter just to make sure that this was actually legitimate because you know how people are with faking screenshots and all that bullshit. So I had to go on Twitter, and sure enough, it was right up there on Vince's page, and they're like, "Oh, yep, it's legitimate."
Well, I was the same way. Like I said, I was doing a project earlier, and I was like, "Hey, Vince is retiring," and I was like, I've heard rumors, dirt sheets, but then I started getting messages on Facebook from people like, "Yo, it's true, it's true." I'm like, okay, so I mean, was he retiring? Is this? And then when I finally read this article, I finally figures it out. But Weed in Wrestling said it's kind of funny that elites think that stepping down is retiring for the elegant of punishment. The rest of us would be in fucking jail if we were in Vince McMahon's shoes.
I mean, you're not wrong. And I think the word is actually equivalent of a punishment. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, I understand where, we in wrestling, thank you so much for joining us for this. Um, I see where they're coming from. And in all honesty, I don't think it's over for, Vince McMahon entirely as far as the allegations go. So this was one of those things where I think, honestly, he probably had his hand forced where he had to step down. And to be honest, with everything that's going on, just it's still a lot to kind of take in. I mean, from the allegations 1 week to now this week, he's actually leaving. He's actually retiring.
You know, I I look back. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I went back and I looked at the female wrestler they claimed in 2005 that he had an affair with. I narrowed it down. One was Christy Hemme and one is Dawn Marie. Now, you know, I was thinking which one of these girls would be the one that would do something oral for Vince on the side. And I don't know about you guys, but all fingers to me points to Dawn Marie.
Yeah, same here. Because Christy Hemme doesn't didn't went on her merry way. Excuse me, I can't even talk tonight for some reason.
I don't have any kind of thing to really input on that. It's one of those things where, the person knows who they are, and it's really their business if they want to reveal themselves or not. I'm not going to, invade that kind of privacy and make an idea of what it is. I mean, everybody can have freedom to
Yeah.
speculate. I'm staying out of it.
But this
And
is
from
what. Go ahead, Leon.
I only heard this Dawn Marie person like one time, and that was like in a magazine because I'll get like the old magazine from like '06, early '07, and I saw that I'm like, Dawn Marie, who the fuck is this bitch?
So, according to what Vince McMahon has said, this is the statement that he said today. Throughout the years, it's been a privilege to help WWE bring you joy, inspire you, thrill you, surprise you, and always entertain you. I would like to thank my family for contributing, for my success and the success of the WWE Universe. I would also like to thank all of our past and present superstars and employees for their dedication and passion for our brand. Most importantly, I would like to thank our fans for allowing us into your homes every week and by your choice of entertainment. I had the deepest appreciation and admiration for generations for all fans all over the world. Our global audience can take comfort in knowing that WWE will continue to entertain you with the same dedication and passion we've always had, and I'm extremely confident in the continued success of WWE. I leave our company in capable hands of extraordinary group of superstars, employees, and executives, in particular both Chairwoman, CEO Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, and Triple H. As majority shareholder, I will continue to support WWE in any way I can. My personal thanks to our community and business partners, shareholders, board of directors for their guidance and support throughout the years. Then, now, forever, and together. That was Vince McMahon's little thought today. So, what do you think, Nate, when you hear when Vince said?
It's one of those things where, unlike where the allegations came out and he just literally went on to SmackDown saying like, "Oh, we're in this, then, now, together, forever," kind of deal, where it felt forced, or it felt like kind of one of those things where it was like, yeah, I'm going through this hard time, but we're going through this rough time. This actually feels like a bit more of a proper send off, as well as a proper and professional way to retire. Honestly, I feel like this was a bit more genuine and definitely a lot more better than what he's done in the past. So I think that this was actually a really good statement. I didn't really see that many flaws, although I'm sure somebody on the internet is already going to be like, "Oh, well, Vince is saying this. What he really means is blah blah blah," which means it's F Triple H and F Nick Khan and F his daughter Steph. I don't think he would really say that, although there is a storyline, which I don't think we need to really talk about that. But it is one of those things where it's a professionally done kind of deal. I mean, we've heard he has kind of unprofessional deals backstage. There's probably the one time where I feel like he's being professional and true.
What comes to mind for you, Leon, when you hear what Vince said in his statement?
I read the statement via no DQ because I'm actually like friends with Aaron Rick, so that's how I found the statement initially. It
Yeah.
comes off like one of those statements that corporations, mainly in like tech companies, would write up when they get themselves into like petty shit. Because Mark Zuckerberg actually did something similar when Sheryl Sandberg stepped down. I think it was like about a month ago, similar to that effect.
What comes to mind for me when I hear that statement and I read that statement is, Weta Wrestling, Andre Colville, who's a very big, he's a very big, he works I think he works in Canada with stuff like that, right, Leon? He does a lot of Canada work. So yeah, but when I saw his comment, he said it sounds like a Grammy acceptance speech. To be honest with you though, the one thing I'll say is what does somebody expect Vince to say that I did this, that I did that, and that's the end? I mean, I find it kind of weird though that we're getting the whole TV-14 ratings now at the same time that Vince is leaving.
Yeah, and apparently that TV-14 thing is going to start at SummerSlam.
I've heard rumors that it was supposed to start this past Monday, at least for USA Network, if I'm not mistaken. Because if my reports that I've read are correct, it was USA Network that made the decision to go to TV-14, not WWE. So that's kind of where they're at right now, where they don't have as much power as we think they do. But yeah, no, I'm kind of interested in seeing how this move kind of goes forward. I'm not expecting it to go to like the Attitude Era kind of deal where you saw hot women getting beat up, or you see a lot of like the excess blood and guts and violence. But I definitely do think they have a chance to make an edgier product, but also a product that feels more real than what it has in the past. And I think that with Vince McMahon now stepping away, this is going to be WWE's opportunity to basically hit a reset button of sorts. And now they're going to have to create something more in line to keep the people interested, but also keep them invested in the company. So I think that this is going to be a very pivotal move. And I think that change is going to really start happening after SummerSlam.
I'm going to start with you on this one, Leon, but what do you think? Do you have faith in Triple H and Stephanie, or do you think that this is going to be more of the same? Or do you think that what Triple H did in NXT, he can do with Raw and SmackDown?
I mean, I'll give both of them a chance because I'm not going to strike them down because they haven't been like initiated in the role fully just yet. So I'll give them a chance to see if it's like any good. If not, then I'll give my opinion on it on a later time frame, but not right now since the transition just begun technically.
So what do you think, Nate? You know, watching NXT with Triple H in charge, do you think if with Triple H now back in as a he's back in as a VP or EVP now?
So I feel a bit more comfortable with Triple H and Stephanie at the helm because I feel like with two of them kind of working together instead of being one, there is a chance to actually split up the responsibilities a bit better than before. I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to go, but if rumors are be told that Nick Khan and Stephanie are going to be like co-CEOs, then it is going to make it a little bit easier for everybody because I do believe that Stephanie has the right business sense and the business mind, so she can handle that. Nick Khan, I think he's doing a fair job at that as well. As far as Triple H goes, you mentioned the fact, head of NXT, he literally created one of the best brands for so many years until, unfortunately, tragedy struck, and he, unfortunately, had that heart deal that scared a lot of us. But thankfully, it seems like he's doing really good, really healthy, and I feel like Triple H is going to really build up the wrestler side of it. I think that he definitely has some really good relationships with a lot of people. Now, that being said, I know some people that will not be coming to WWE probably in the near future. I mean, some people might say, well, this is basically the burial of any chances of CM Punk and Ryback coming back to WWE. That's a safe assumption. I think with everything that they've said about them in the past, it's a safe assumption for that. But I think that this could be a good move, but I also am on Leon at this point. It's kind of one of those things where it's a little bit too early to tell. I have high hopes, and I'm just hoping that they don't crash and burn. Do I see a lot of things changing? Not at the start. I see things kind of staying the same, but I definitely do see like little things kind of changing a little bit. Maybe some characters are going to have more freedom to actually talk and not be just this kind of copy and paste kind of deal. Maybe there's going to be a chance that we're going to see different storylines, such like that, because I really do think that there's a lot that can be made with some of the characters that they have on screen. Just got to give them the right platform and the right material.
I have every confidence in the world in Triple H and what he did with NXT. I feel like that he's a wrestler's boss because he's been in this business for so long. He understands the concept of not only the business behind the scenes, but he understands the business in the ring. And I feel like that a lot of these younger guys will benefit, younger men and women will benefit from learning from him. I don't know much about Nick Khan to having a proper, like I'm with you guys on that one. I don't know Nick Khan very well to say if he's going to be successful or not. Stephanie, I think this is a good thing for the women's division because Stephanie went to bat for them. And I think that this will not only put a shot back in the arm of women's wrestling in WWE with Stephanie's part, but I think that guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and a couple guys who aren't really getting that push when Vince was around will now when Triple H is here. But as you said, Nate, there were some people who may not there's a lot of wrestlers who said they would come back to WWE if Vince left. Um, we all know I don't think Ryback and CM Punk would be those two people, but especially Ryback.
I mean, with everything that Ryback has said, and with all the items where CM Punk unloaded on the our wrestling deal, Cole Cabana's former podcast, definitely not happening. But one of the things that really just come to mind is that I think that there's still a good chance that, like we were saying throughout this entire deal, that even though Vince McMahon leaving creative may be a good thing initially, we still don't know the impact that it's really going to have. I mean, is it going to be an immediate change? Is it going to be something where it just gradually, changes to something else as time goes on? We just don't really know. And I think, honestly, after recording this, we're probably going to get at least an idea if it's going to stay the same or if it's going to be different with SmackDown happening tonight.
So let me ask you, Leon, do you think that this whole do you think that we all live in a double standard where people like Vince McMahon or anyone in show business or who are billionaires can get away with stuff that a normal person like me or you and Nate would go to jail for?
Same applies in the corporate world, regardless of the industry that it's in, whether that be like filmmaking, wrestling, what have you. Same applies. If you got money, you can get away with just about everything. We've seen that time and time and time again. Like, take the Congress stuff that Zuckerberg's been through. They questioned him like 3 times over various things that Facebook needs to work on, and they haven't charged him for fucking shit. So that proves if you got money, you can get away with pretty much anything.
So, Nate, would you take this with Vince stepping down as the proper punishment, or do you think Vince should be more investigated even though he has stepped down?
Do I think that him leaving is the proper punishment? No, I definitely don't. I do believe that, despite the fact that things happened years ago, there's no escaping the law, really. And this is one of those things where I do think that Vince McMahon should be, persecuted to the full extent of it. So I don't think he should just, get like a slap on the wrist for this just because it happened years ago. No, this is something that should have been addressed, when it happened. But I understand also that a lot of this was hush money. So they were told to, keep quiet about this. But that it's just an ugly world that we live in. And I think we're finding out more of that ugly side of it as the years do go by. And it's really sad to see.
Seeing in the comments section, Weed in Wrestling said that, well, the one thing that can be said after all this roller coaster ride is that Linda McMahon is one ride and die loyal bitch.
I mean, at this point, it's true.
I mean, I didn't realize that they were not living together for all this time. Like, for years, they have not been living together, which, when you see Vince McMahon's character on TV for the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, when I heard about these allegations, were you guys even surprised?
I mean, at this point, no. I, like you said, after seeing all that, it's one of those things where, Linda is a strong woman when it comes to patience and tolerance for what her husband does. But there does come a point where she knows that, the line's been crossed and there's really no going back from that.
Were you surprised, Leon, when you heard about the reports that he was doing hush money and paying off women?
And when it comes to me specifically, not really, as Hollywood themselves do enough that as it is. So this didn't come as a shocker to me.
The one thing I would like to know what happens with this is, and Nate, you kind of point in on to it too, there's a lot of guys who are loyal to Vince. Guys like Taker and Austin and a few of those guys. What would their relationships be with WWE now going forward? I mean, I know some of them respect Triple H and stuff, but, what is their relationship going forward? I mean, Triple H was very keen on getting the Warrior back in WWE. He got Bruno Sammartino back before both their passings. I mean, what do you think, Nate? Do you think that this might affect like certain legends coming back because they have this so much respect for Vince that they may not trust Stephanie and Triple H?
That's a good question because for the longest time, I think that we didn't think a lot of people were going to be coming back to the world of WWE. I mean, we probably didn't think that Bret Hart was going to come back, Ultimate Warrior, Scott freaking Steiner, who went to the Hall of Fame. There was probably no chance in hell that we thought that he was going to come back to the WWE. But he did. And it's kind of one of those things where I feel like the phrase never say never makes the most sense when it comes to this. As far as a lot of the trust with like current legends, I don't see too much changing, although I am kind of in the wrong with that because I did read a report earlier, and I don't know if you were going to address this, Kev, that Brock Lesnar apparently left SmackDown after Vince said that he was retiring. Literally said, the quote was, "If he's gone, I'm gone," which shocks me a bit because that's one of those things where it's like, but you're hyped up for the SummerSlam main event. You can't just leave that if you're going to that. That's going to cause a little bit of an ugly. That's going to cause an ugly bump in the road going in a few weeks.
So, what do you think, Leon? Do you think that Vince leaving affects certain people like maybe like a Brock Lesnar or like a Goldberg or someone that comes back every now and then? You think this affects it?
The transfer of power of any industry is scary for a lot of people. I get that. But over time, I think they'll like warm up as the months progress. Like any other process, it takes time.
I honestly, to be honest with you guys, I mean, I know the reports that Vince is retired, but I still think that Vince is a phone call away. Like if Stephanie and Triple H and Nick Khan can't convince Brock or someone like that, I can see Vince calling them and convincing them to still go and do SummerSlam.
Yeah, Vince said in his statement that he'll still support WWE any way he can, and I guess that's what he meant by that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
You know, I mean, honestly though, the one thing I would be as a wrestler right now, if I was in WWE right now, it would be conflicting, but I would also be excited because I would see a guy like Triple H who's been on the road 300 days a year. He knows exactly how we feel. And that right there makes you feel a little bit better about your situation. And some of those guys on the roster are probably like, yes, that old man's gone. We can finally get our pushes. For the longest time, and that's why a lot of these guys are in AEW now. Like for the longest time, I thought Cesaro should have been pushed in WWE, and now he's in AEW and he's succeeding. And I do think that this opens up the door more to how they treated the Cody Rhodes coming to WWE. I do think this opens up the door more for guys who are free agents of AEW to possibly come to WWE now.
I mean, it is certainly a possibility. I'm not going to rule that out. I mean, there's probably some people that thought that Vince was the staple that caused them not to, go into WWE. But now with that being gone, yeah, no, there could be a lot more possibility. But it's also a double-edged sword because now they realize that Stephanie and Triple H are kind of in charge along with Nick Khan. So it's kind of one of those things where we're just going to have to wait and see. We don't know how the relationships with all of them are with the rest of the wrestling community.
Actually, I have to say, man, when I saw Steiner in the Hall of Fame, now I understood why the Steiners only got 4 minutes to talk. And then Rick kind of took the mic from Scott, so I kind of get the understanding of that situation because I was looking forward to it because I was like, man, Scott with a loaded microphone, this is gonna be fun. But I think we all three can agree if there's one person that would never come back to WWE, and I think that would be Gail Kim. I think that would be a one that you would say when people say never, I don't ever see her coming back.
Oh, she's definitely not, because I know for a fact I've actually talked to her and she said that she has no interest in coming back. She literally, it was just like a 2-strike deal. First time around, did her wrong. She went to TNA, got over. Now she's got all this momentum, goes into WWE. What do they have her do? This weird kind of like fitness kind of deal, and then they do nothing with her. And then she literally is like, yeah, I'm out of here. She eliminates herself from a battle royal and then leaves. To which I'm just like, okay, that's kind of clutch. That's kind of awesome. So, yeah, no, there's no way Gail Kim's coming back.
Let me ask you, Leon, do you think this opens the door for someone like Sasha Banks to come back now after she's walked out twice? Do you think this opens up the door now that Vince is pretty much out the door?
As far as that, I don't know what's in store for like Sasha Banks. I mean, what Sasha Banks pretty much did was pretty much disrespectful to not only her coworkers but also her peers. Like, if you were to do that like at an actual job, you would be fired right on the fucking spot. So I think she got a slap on the wrist when it came to that shit.
Yeah,
I
was going to kind of piggyback off of that, because she's not only done this once, you mentioned it before, she's done it twice. So it's kind of one of those things where if she has that kind of, creative disagreement, what makes you think that she's not going to do it again for a third time? And then WWE is going to look like the dummies for trusting her 3 times and then failing 3 times with her. So honestly, I feel like this is one of those situations where I understand, having creative differences, but there just comes a point where you cannot do what Sasha did. And it's one of those things where she really needs to learn that not everything's going to go perfectly, but it's one of those things where, you still can't change the workplace by sitting at home. You have to be there every single day, showing that you're going to put in the work, but you're also going to fight for everybody that's in the locker room. So I definitely do agree with what Leon's saying. I definitely do think that this is probably Sasha's farewell. She's probably going to go to another company, but it's one of those things where it's like, that's also putting a risk on the company who hires her, because she may do the same thing that she did in WWE twice. Do you really take that chance?
Let me ask you guys this. If y'all were AEW or Impact Wrestling, would you sign her?
I think that Impact would be the better choice between them, because I feel like they have enough women on the AEW roster to really make it as big as it could be. They just need to utilize that women's roster better. Impact, they have people. I think they just still need a couple people that have been in the business for a little while that are going to help groom them into that next generation. I think Sasha would really fit more in the Impact Knockouts division than in the AEW women's division.
I mean, like Leon, if you were another owner of a company and Sasha wanted to be a part of your wrestling promotion, would you trust her?
Seeing of what she did in WWE, I wouldn't hire her if I could be honest. Hell, I wouldn't hire her for my movie if word of that got out. Like, I'm not gonna hire someone who's so unprofessional that they're gonna walk out because of creative differences. I'm not gonna work with someone like that.
I also am excited about this because Nick Khan has said, and Triple H has said in interviews, that they're willing to do business with other companies. Now that Vince being gone, do you think that we could see WWE teaming up more with other companies?
Leon, why don't you start this one? Give me a little bit of time.
I mean, I do see it. They did do that promotion show with Evolve a couple years ago. I think it was on the network. So now that Vince is like out of the equation, if you will, the door is definitely going to open a lot more for that. I mean, if you want to look at cross promotion, like, look no further than Mickey James, because they actually acknowledge Impact in the Royal Rumble, something they never done before. So I think now that Vince has stepped down, we're going to see a lot more of that, if anything.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's, if I were to guess, who they would probably pair up with first, I think that they would probably pair up with Impact Wrestling first above AEW, because in all honesty, I think that there's a better working relationship between the two. At Slammiversary multiple times, they've actually allowed a WWE star to go into TNA to do like a cameo or stuff like that. They did that with Christian a few years ago when he announced Sting for the Hall of Fame. They did that with AJ Styles this past year for Slammiversary for that anniversary show. So I feel like Impact would be their first step. And I would honestly love to see a lot of the people from Impact Wrestling get kind of moved over into WWE and kind of do some crossover stuff. I'm just even imagining Honor No More going from Impact Wrestling to WWE and doing the stuff that they've been doing. That would create anarchy, and it would be one of those things where it's like, well, this looks like Retribution, and people would be like, no, Retribution was nothing compared to Honor No More.
I would love to see. I would like to see Moose crossover. I think that Moose is athletic enough to move over. I would like to see Jordan Grace move over. There's a couple of people in Impact, like you said, that could really do some good things for WWE. Like especially if they need bodies for the Royal Rumble and things like that. That's something that can be easily done. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Kurt Angle allowed to go to a TNA Hall of Fame while in WWE, or was that before he went to WWE back?
I think it was before, but it could have been during too. Honestly, years kind of fluctuate and they kind of seem like they seem together, so it could be either or at this point.
Do you guys ever see them working with AEW? Because they did have for that John Cena thing, they had a couple of AEW guys. They had Jericho on Stone Cold's podcast only because Jericho and Vince have a good relationship. But do you think that this could make it to where they can do like an ultimate show, like their best versus their best?
Eventually, yes.
It is possible, but we'll have to wait and see, as the transition is like merely starting, as I said before.
The good thing about this whole situation, and I think you guys would agree, is the fact that John Laurinaitis is gone. I think that is the people power is gone. So now now people don't have to deal with him. Because I still don't feel like he knew what the hell. I honestly, I don't. I look at him and I'm like, that guy does not know what he's doing.
I mean, do we really have to talk about his people power run with Raw SmackDown? Yeah, no, that was an interesting run. And I think it went a little too long, but it's one of those weird things because it's something where there's one of those situations where there's some people that you never would have guessed would have been involved in a lot of the controversy that was going on. John Laurinaitis was not one of those people that I really thought about. I could understand, somebody saying like, well, how can you know that? He's a yes man. He's like Briscoe and Patterson and Pritchard and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, I look at John Laurinaitis and I think to myself, he just seems like a regular guy who comes off as a boring guy. So he doesn't seem like one of those guys that would be involved in the Hush Money deal, but I was wrong. I was completely wrong about that.
Wasn't he, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he married to the Bella twins' mom?
That is correct.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Probably not now, or probably won't be here in the next probably couple months.
But then again, I wouldn't take that total diva shit for granted because most of that shit's staged anyway.
Well, now it's just not total divas; it's total Bellas now. So there's another layer of drama that we don't need in our lives.
Now, when you guys were talking about WWE going TV 14, who in the current roster do you think would benefit with this whole TV 14
thing? There's a part of me that would definitely say that Roman would be high up there, but I think that his time is going to slowly dwindle down with him being the top guy, and they need to build off into other characters. Lashley would be definitely one that I could see being really high in the TV 14 deal. Theory is slowly getting to that point, even though people are saying he's being pushed too hard. There have been people that have been pushed harder than him. And plus, remember, David Arquette was WCW champion, so you can't get pushed any faster than he did.
Oh, you had to remember that.
I had to bring that up. But yeah, as far as the TV 14 deal, who that would probably benefit, it just kind of depends on the person and the character that they bring to the television tapings. It's going to depend on how I can't really say concrete who would benefit the most, but I definitely do see people that would probably benefit because they can have more real characters. Like Drew McIntyre would definitely be one that I could see being a real character, literally killing it on there and just cutting promos that are coming from the heart. And I'm the one few person that might be able to say this. I don't mind him having a sword because that's something you don't see in wrestling. Plus, it's a big ass sword. It's kind of awesome.
What about you, Leon? Who you think would benefit now with the TV 14 rating on WWE?
I'm in the same boat as Nate. Roman probably, but then again, as he said, with his time going down, he might take a similar path like the Rock did in Breaking to Hollywood eventually. So only time will tell in that regard.
I actually think of a few people. Finn Balor is one who I think would benefit with the TV 14 thing. And now that they turned him heel, if you let him be creative like he was in the Indies, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You let him be that. You let him be Prince. I can see him. Kevin Owens would definitely benefit from TV 14. Sami Zayn, like PK Bauer just said on the thing, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn definitely would benefit. Roman, I think Roman is starting to get to that point where he's going to be like The Rock and Cena. He'll probably go to Hollywood eventually. I think that's winding down for him in that particular area. But I've look at the women. I think, honestly, I think a Ronda Rousey benefits with TV 14. I see a person like Shayna Baszler who can benefit for TV 14, and I could see Becky Lynch being able to benefit more. I think Seth Rollins is going to benefit even better.
As far as the female roster, I'm going to throw this out there, even though I don't like this specific female roster I'm about to name, but I think TV 14 would fit Bianca Belair a lot more than the PG era did.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I agree with that one. Bianca would definitely benefit.
I think that also Street Profits, if we're going off of that, would probably benefit from that because I think that when they say like feel the smoke, they can actually do an actual reference of that instead of just being like, what does that mean? I don't know. They probably could actually benefit. Oh yeah, it's weed. It's a weed reference, which could also make Riddle also be a part of it. So now we're getting to the point where we could just chain off of somebody and be like, oh, this person could chain after that. Oh, and then this person could chain after that. This person could chain after that. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that can benefit from it. But
the one person I don't think benefits from the TV 14 is AJ Styles. I think this might be able because he's a very good Christian guy, and I don't know if he would like being in a TV 14 scenario. I mean, like there's some parts of TNA that were TV 14, if I'm not mistaken, Nate. So,
yeah. No, you're definitely right. I disagree with that. I think AJ Styles would still thrive in the TV 14. Like, I don't see him doing some of the. Oh God, do I have to mention Claire Lynch that he went through that crap? Jeez, but he came back after a hiatus as kind of like a darker side of him, where he literally did not talk. He literally was in like a leather jacket, did not talk.
Yeah, I understand about. Yep.
I think he would if he brought that into the TV 14 deal, people would definitely get behind it because gone would be kind of the days of where he's saying I'm phenomenal to him saying like I'm showing that my actions are phenomenal because it's AJ freaking Styles. So, I say this as as wrestling fans, I respectfully disagree, but I get where you're coming from.
The one thing I think would definitely benefit is if the rumors are true for WrestleMania next year. I know The Rock's not doing any movies for 2 to 3 months around that time. If the rumors are true that it's Rock and Roman Reigns, this also benefits The Rock
How do you figure?
Well, I figured that The Rock was able to still do stuff in the PG era, but he was not able to go full throttle like he was with the Hollywood Rock
Ah,
and everything like that. I think when Rock comes back, he's able to open up that door a little more and
gotcha.
be able to say the thing like when Austin came back for WrestleMania, he wasn't able to do his middle finger when he was up in the turnbuckle, and I think and from what I hear, Austin may want to do another one. So if that's the case too, this also benefits Steve Austin.
I will say this, that with the whole thing with Austin, with him coming back this past year at WrestleMania, I was not really for it. But as soon as the match was over, I literally was like, okay, if he can go and he can go safely, then that's kind of cool. I mean, he definitely had a better last match than Shawn Michaels did.
Oh,
Yeah, the match that people would like for us to forget, because the only thing that mattered was WrestleMania 26, nothing beyond that. Um, I say that I think as long as Austin can, do it safely and work with somebody that's, gonna be safe to work with, I'm okay with the idea. But also, it's one of those things where he had a match in Texas, did really well with Kevin Owens. I would rather see Austin stay retired for that. But I do see your point with The Rock, where he could mention the Rudy Poo Candy ass and talk about random insults like he did back in the day. Some people might get it, but then there's going to be other generational people that were a part of that. Be like, oh yeah, I remember Poontang Pie. I remember him talking about the the Rock Burger with monkey piss. All this other random stuff that he did, because yeah, some of the stuff that he did during the PG era. I mean, King Corbin, how are your lips?
yep.
What the shit?
Well, especially when he was feuding with Punk and he called him Cookie Puss. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, if that was the TV 14 Attitude Era Rock, obviously he would have called him a cookie. He would have called him a pussy and everything else he can get his hands on. But the fact that it was Cookie Puss.
I mean, I remember watching that feud, and I still thought it was hilarious just hearing Cookie Puss. I think honestly, it kind of rolls off more of the tongue than Cookie Pussy, because I feel like that's like stretching it just a little bit. So he probably could have thought of a different insult, but I mean,
Yeah.
that feud with Punk though was fun when he called Paul Heyman walrus with floppy breasts.
I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
so what? Let me ask you. I'm gonna start with you, Leon. But what is your favorite Vince McMahon moment? Like that you've watched over the years that you're just like, anytime you see it, you're like, that's fucking great.
Uh, I don't have a fair per se, but there are like a few memorable ones that I like. Too many to count, though.
I think I might be in the same boat as you, Leon, but I'll try to at least keep mine minimal. If you got a few, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have favorites per se, so I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
Fair enough. I think that for me, what really stands out with Vince McMahon are the facial reactions that he has to a lot of the stuff that he goes through. I mean, the time where Austin pulls a gun on him and he literally looks like his eyes are just going to bulge out of his head, and then just find out it's a Bang 316 gun. It's McMahon.
And he beat his pants. Yeah.
Yes, that was awesome. And then plus, it also kind of goes full circle, because then Sean goes, "It's better to be pissed off than pissed on." He just throws his pee at him. Childish, but still fucking hilarious. I hit when he found out that Ric Flair was going to be his partner for half of control of WWE. Just him having like this look of like genuine shock and just tugging on his ear. That was great. And somebody actually mentioned this, I think, in the one of the group chats that we're in, Kev. The Vince McMahon Rikishi moment, where Vince had his head shoved up so far up Rikishi's ass. Oh my god! Between that one and the one where DX did that with him and Big Show, it's kind of hard to really tell which one was worse for Vince. But which one was probably stinkier was probably him going to Big Show's ass, to say the least. But if I were to pick like one standout moment with Vince McMahon that will stand above the rest, I think it's any time he gets a stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin. Those are the main things that really stand out to me, whether it was the first stunner or the last stunner that he took, or even the one that he took at Raw Homecoming. Just every time he took a stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin, it was great because it made you feel nostalgic. It made you just remember the fact that, yeah, anarchy rules and fuck authority.
That first stunner, I would laugh at that one because I remember it was a Madison Square Garden, and when he stunned him, Vince McMahon was convulsing. Put his eyes open. It was just perfect. I mean, the last stunner he took at WrestleMania made me crack up on my when I did a live reaction to that on my TikTok, and I was just cracking I couldn't stop laughing. But a couple of things for me with Vince is you're talking about his facial thing. The time that he had Stacy Keibler dancing on the table, and Vince and his eyes popped out and he fell down.
I remember that.
Oh my gosh.
That one gets me when he's in the bed and then Mick Foley's trying to do this Mr. Sacco for the first time, and
the hospital bed one. That's a good one.
And the part where Vince said that Austin really hit him with the bedpan because he told him to hit him, and that was a good one. Some people don't talk about this. I mean, I wish the higher power would have been something better, but the fact when he said it's me, Austin, with that whole face, that gets to me, and especially when he was feuding with DX, him and Shane, and Vince was like they were taking the controls away from him and made him sound like Darth Vader, and they put I Love Cock on his or that Raw 15 where Triple H brought up all these women that Vince has been in, all these sexual relationships Vince has been in, like Melina came out and Sonny came out, and then Briscoe and Pat Patterson came out. I'm like,
oh my gosh. That one stands out to me too, because I remember when they brought Mae Young out, who honestly is such an underrated performer in wrestling, period.
Yeah.
Just Vince trying to explain, like, I had a bit to drink. I had a lot to drink. I had to dust off the cobwebs, and Shane's like, I'm out. It's just one of those things where everybody's like, just stop. Just, you have that one friend who doesn't know when the joke is done. Just stop talking. It was so awkward, but it was so funny. I remember that.
And the one thing too is when Vince got his head shaved and he was the ECW champion, he was walking around saying, "What up, my people?"
Oh god. Oh god. I remember the fucking the night after Mania where Lashley took off his hat and just literally just they're making it seem like he had like a point on his head where he was bald, and Vince is just running around the arena. It's like, I gotta take this crown. Oh shit, there you go. I'm gonna take JR's hat. No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna put my face between between Jillian's legs. Oh, this is such a good one. And then rips off the skirt. Oh, nope, there's bald Vince.
It kind of makes you think like whether or not Vince McMahon started the whole Batman voice.
just when he became Vince ECW champion, I would have loved that. Just be like, I'm gonna be ECW champion. I gotta make myself more ruthless, more aggressive. Ruthless aggression. Yes.
There were some parts that got me too, where he actually was making out with Stephanie. No, she was making out with Trish when Linda was comatose on the wheelchair. There was I think there was another one where he I'm trying to remember another one he did. The Rikishi one you can't really beat, but when Vince started creating the Kiss My Ass Club and had William Regal actually kiss his ass, I was like, this is, and then made Jim Ross do it because Undertaker turned heel and they forced Jim Ross to do it.
You cannot have a Vince McMahon career retrospective unless you talk about the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club. Just some of the stupidest shit that they did with that. But also some very memorable moments, like WrestleMania, where Vince is like, I'm gonna make Shawn a 2-time member of the Kiss My Ass Club. Ah, yes, Shane, make sure he's getting in there. Make sure he's getting in there. Just them finding out, what? Why are you kissing my ass? No, Shane, no, what are you doing?
How can we ever forget the fact that Vince McMahon tried to have a match with God at Backlash?
Oh, good. That actually happened immediately after. I forgot about that. Jeez Louise. The night after, where he's like, it became a handicap match. It was me versus you and God, because there was an act of God that you won at WrestleMania. And Shawn, I think that this was a shoot where he's like, you have finally gone completely insane. That was not him in a promo. That was literally him shooting like, dude, you're off the rails now. This is BS.
But you know what's interesting too, Nate, is that a lot of the older wrestlers looked at Vince as a father figure, and I will give him credit though. When he screwed Bret Hart, he went in there and he took the punch like a man. I will give him full credit on that. I mean, most people would not want to be taking a punch from Bret Hart, especially when he's pissed and you just screwed him in front of a live pay-per-view audience.
In his home nation, too. That makes it even worse.
But he took the punch like a man. And there's a lot of things with Vince where he actually took the ball by the horns. I mean, in SummerSlam 91, Ultimate Warrior was trying to hold him up. He gave him the money, then afterwards he fired him.
Well,
I mean, honestly, there's a lot about Vince that I'm going to miss, because I know some people were talking earlier, and I'm actually glad you mentioned it, but Vince is a pioneer. I mean, we wouldn't have sports entertainment, and we wouldn't have the kind of wrestling that we have now if he didn't buy the company from his father and decided to maximize it and start this whole pop culture of sports entertainment. I mean, people can say what they want about Vince as a man or personally, because, personally, I think, being a married man, I think he's a piece of shit. But that's just from a personal standpoint. But he's highly ass entertaining.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where some people can differentiate the character from the actual person. And I think that's one of those things that people try to do with Benoit, where they try to differentiate. Like, they could still watch his matches because they think about him as the wrestler, not for what he did. I think people are would definitely try to do the same thing with Vince, to where they remember him as the character of being this slimy scumbag of a human being that just asserted his authority, but he also got the comeuppance from it. He got it from Stone Cold, from The Rock, from The Undertaker, from Roman Reigns, from Triple H, you name it. He's literally been one of those guys that are like, you know what? I'm going to be this bastard. I'm going to be this dirtbag. And in the end, you're going to beat the shit out of me. It's just one of those things where, he gave a lot to that company. And it just sucks that, you kind of mentioned it, that it's kind of built on so many different controversies, lies, and scandals, unfortunately. But that is also one of the things that, unfortunately, that's how life is nowadays, that we're finding out about all this stuff. I really do hate that it's come down to that.
Yeah.
But I'm also, like I said, I'm not going to diminish the accomplishments that he did with professional wrestling. Like you said, creating a sports entertainment empire, bring us people like Hulk Hogan and Warrior and Roman and Rock and Austin, bring us, some entertaining moments in professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm not going to diminish that. It's just, again, there's some things it's really hard to diminish from his personal life that makes you think, he's a really good, respectable human being. And I think he definitely deserves every single bit of recognition that he's gotten. There's a part of me that can maybe go 50% on that, but the other 50% is like, yeah, I know also where a lot of this came from, and it sucks.
Well, we go back to the whole steroid trial, and I don't know how much you followed that, Nate, and I don't know if you saw the Vice episode of it.
I did, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So yeah, the one thing about that though is if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, even though Hogan was in WCW at the time, if it wasn't for Hogan, Vince would be going to prison. That Hogan was the star witness of the prosecution, and Hogan pretty much went in there and told the truth, and pretty much saved Vince's ass.
Yeah,
And he got away from that. I mean, that's there was allegations in the early '90s of Vince. Um, there was some gay references. I don't know if you ever heard that one. There was some.
no, I've never heard that one.
Yeah, there was some wrestlers that were claiming that Vince let a lot of stuff slide.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, and then there was the whole concussion thing, and everybody's always wondering why Demolition's not in the Hall of Fame. But that's because they sued WWE in that concussion protocol thing, and that's the reason why we don't see Demolition in the Hall of Fame. Because the one thing is Vince holds grudges for a little bit.
Mhm.
When Hogan came back in 2002, and Bruce Pritchard said it himself, and Jim Ross said it too. Hogan and Vince's relationship's never been the same when Hogan left in '93. It was a so closeness. It was like a friendship partnership that after he comes back, it's almost like, well, now it's different.
Yeah, and I think that happens with a lot of relationships where something very big happens, and it's sometimes very hard to go back to that place to where you think like everything's going to be hunky dory, peachy keen. Um, excuse me. There are places and people that I know where it was literally like I would love to have a relationship with them. I would love to go back and work at certain places, but I also know that something happened to where it was like there's no way that I could talk to this person or that I could work with this person again. So I understand kind of where that's coming from. And I do agree with you that Vince does have times where he holds grudges, but he also understands that there are things that he can't just erase from the business because these people really put their bodies and their lives on the line to give Vince what he has, to give him the money so that he can have the cars, the house, the life that he has right now. So he has learned, to look past his differences, whether it was Randy Savage or Bret Hart or Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior, and realize, okay, this is something where I need to put my differences aside, try to make amends, and do something for them that really would benefit not only me, but also them as well. And I do believe Vince definitely put himself first before anything.
Here's something I would tell anybody, because next week SummerSlam's here in Nashville, where I live, and there's the Starcast convention and Ric Flair's last match. Don't be surprised if Vince actually attends the roasting of Ric Flair, or maybe even comes to the Municipal Auditorium and watches Flair's match in the back.
No, I definitely could see that. He's got the free time now, so
people don't know that, but I mean, Vince is that kind of guy that could do something like that and be able now. The only thing is, would Vince McMahon write an autobiography? People have asked about that, and the whole thing with the Macho Man thing. I would just tell anybody this, and Randy Savage's brother said it best. If you really want to know what happened, the only person that would know now is either Vince and Stephanie.
I mean, it's true.
And neither one is going to probably say anything. So, but yeah, I know that Kayla was watching. I should tell Kayla, like, hey, Vince is free. We should hire Vince for MCW. I mean, why not?
just comes out for one cameo and be like, welcome to MCW WrestleFest. Some shit like that.
And what I think would be cool is if if all of us can do our finisher on him. just basically, because I would make the drive if she said that about Vince. I'd be, oh shit, yeah, I'll be there in a heartbeat. So, because I would love to have a little.
You're beating up a 77-year-old man. It's fine. It's Vince McMahon. Oh, okay, then that's different.
I mean, that match with him and Pat McAfee, I was looking at it like he really didn't do much.
The one thing I remember was him kicking the football into Pat McAfee and then it being over. That's all I remember from that match. And all I thought to myself was, wow, that was a thing. Vince got his one last WrestleMania match in. So
I'm sure there's some people that don't like Vince that are probably happy. That they're probably thinking karma came back to collect Vince, or Vince is getting what he deserves. And
oh, definitely, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to live your life like that. I mean, I don't like living my life in hate. I'm guilty of it on certain people, but I think we all are kind of guilty in our own fashions and stuff like that. But I do believe that Vince is not fully 110% gone. I think Vince would still be in Stephanie's ear.
No, I agree with that as well. Like he said, he's definitely going to support WWE for as long as he can. And, it's one of those things where he's not quite ready to move on to the next chapter of his life. And honestly, that is the question. What's next for Vince? I was talking in a group and some people were saying, well, he could be like a Grandpa Vince, the babysitter, make that into like a reality TV series where literally he's just chasing his grandkids around the house, being like, "You damn kids, get back here, or I'll fire every one of you." Dad,
you know what they could do, and this is weird too, is they could hire Vince as a actual on air talent and make him GM. I mean,
I definitely do see the appeal for that, but I think that with the allegations still going on, I think it'd be too soon to bring him onto TV again. That'd be my only concern.
This guy keep him away from the women.
That's fair. That's fair at this point. I mean, he's got on record to say that he is a womanizer, so that is a fair stipulation in the contract. Just be like, you can act like you're the general manager for this, but you stay away from the women. What? What are you saying? It's like, we're telling you, Vince, you can't be by any of the women.
And we're talking about the same. We're talking about the same guy who, when Stephanie and Triple H first had their first child, that he wanted to do the storyline that he impregnated his own daughter. This is the same. I mean,
now keep in mind that this is at least like mid 2000, so he was at least 50 when he thought of this.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Vince? Just why? It's like a wrong turn horror movie, basically.
I mean, I was like, I'm glad Stephanie said no, because Vince has always got that. I actually used to have the Vince McMahon DVD that came out in 2005.
I remember that.
Yeah, and they always said that Vince is a workaholic. I always respected his work ethic because he still kept a good physique after all these years. He took care of himself. Hogan would say stories about how he would call Vince at 3 a.m. and Vince would be tapping, he'd be having sex with Linda and still talking on the phone to him.
Oh,
I mean, that's the kind of guy that he was. And, that's a little frightening. If I called somebody that happened, I'd be like, yeah, I'll call you back tomorrow. But,
oh yeah, you want. What do you want? Oh no, I'm not busy. I'm just having sex with my wife. Oh, you like that, don't you? What is it? Oh, we got this. Jesus, it's just horrifying just thinking about it. Like you said,
it is horrifying to think about it. But I mean, the guy that, from what I heard too, is there stories about how you couldn't sneeze in front of him. So I mean, it's like he had a problem with someone sneezing, and he'd kick them out of the office if they sneeze in his office. And
well, we thank Brody Lee for bringing that to light. God bless the man's soul. Holty was like, "Don't disturb me when I'm eating steak. It's good shit. Let me have my meat."
Yeah, I remember the Beyond the Mat. There was a point when he had Drawsy, Draws. He had Draws, and he was trying to call him Puke, and he was wanting him to puke right there in the middle of his damn. He's gonna puke. He's gonna puke.
Poor Draws, the dude.
I felt bad for Brodus Clay. I mean, now that he's,
Oh god.
I mean, he's doing good. He's doing well for himself now. But I mean, when you have him play a character that says "Someone call my mama, baby," it's just kind of.
One of the best things I remember was I remember WrestleMania 28. And funny story about this was literally that Brodus' segment was going to get cut, but the only reason why it went through is that John Cena said, "Oh, I got to use the bathroom. Hold on, you got about this much time." So they're just like, "Oh, well, Cena's taking that shit. Brodus, get on out there." And he literally does this segment where there's a bunch of elderly ladies coming in, just dancing, shaking their butts. And I'm watching this with a group of friends. And one of my friends, who's a former wrestler, he literally is saying there, jaw dropped, shocked at what he just saw. And then he just walks out of the room before the main event. It's like, I understand.
I mean,
oh my God.
That was nice of John Cena to do that.
Oh, yeah, no, it paints John Cena in a good light, but also makes you think, Vince, just why? Why grandmothers and why they shake it? Never mind. I don't want to know.
So do you think this, when we were talking about wrestlers earlier, do you think this changes John Cena coming back every now and then now with Vince being gone?
I don't think so. I think that Cena has a lot of respect for the WWE and the WWE universe, that no matter who's in charge, I think that he is definitely going to be coming back. I mean, he already made the statement on his 20th anniversary that, the next time he comes around, it's not going to be a short one. It's not going to be like a one and done match deal. He's coming back for, I think, a full-time deal. And honestly, I would love to see him have one more good year in WWE before calling quits. And will that happen? Maybe. But maybe it'll only be 6 months. Maybe it'll only be 3 months. We don't know what he means by longer. So it's kind of those things where you kind of wait and see. But I don't think it's good. I don't think his relationship's going to change with WWE.
Me and Mel haven't decided if we're going to go to the StarCast for one day or not. But if I do decide to go, I might ask people around there what they think about Vince leaving, and maybe I might have the courage to go ask Scott Steiner. I mean, hopefully Steiner's on his good day, and I can ask him a math question. Maybe that would be better.
What was the probability of Vince McMahon being forced to retire? Oh, 100%. That's no doubt. And that's it. It's like, oh, no math equations. No, it was 100% going to happen.
It's one of those things where, have you ever met the Steiners, Nate?
I have not, but they are on my bucket list of people I want to meet.
Now, I know Velvet Sky and Angelina Love are going to be there.
Ooh.
So, I mean, that's kind of, and Lita's going to be there, which is one of Mel's favorites and one of mine. So it's kind of like, do I ask them about Vince and ask them? They're having a New Japan thing here that Friday, and then there's SummerSlam, and then Ric Flair's last match on Sunday. So it's like a full day of wrestling all week here in Nashville.
Oh, trust me. I know that with the StarCast we had in Chicago, for both of them, I was so spent, but it was so worth it. Just meeting up with the people, meeting up with everybody that what's really cool is that there's some that you kind of get that one and done kind of talking relationship to, but then there's some that you kind of hang around with and you kind of talk with, and it's actually really, really nice, because I feel like the StarCasts are kind of those meet and greets where you feel like you get more than what you bargain with, where some of them you just kind of come in, they do their stuff, and you're kind of just there, hi, cool, click, took your photo, done, kind of deal. I'll still never forget the first, or was the second one, where it was, give me a moment, damn dogs. bark at the most unusual of things, but that's
Oh,
what you get
maybe
when
they
you
saw
have
Vince McMahon lurking in your.
I'm going to get that effing great guy. It sounds like a perfect equation for the TV 14. I'm going to drag him to WWE. I'm going to make sure that he brings it.
Could you imagine him? I mean, like, I know that Tim might be your manager, so it's going to be your manager on MCW, but could you imagine if Vince was your manager?
Oh my gosh. I'm just picturing him when he was doing the whole thing with Umaga, and I'm just imagining it's just going to be as beautiful as that beautiful car crash. But I wanted to at least finish the story I was going to tell earlier
Yeah, go ahead.
with the one for Starcast. So this was crazy, but I actually talked with Rosa Mendez for a little bit, and she is an absolute sweetheart. And one of the things that happened was I was basically her coffee boy for like 2 days straight, where literally first day she was like, I would love to get some coffee. And she kind of jokingly said, if you would give me coffee, that'd be great. I just said, yeah, sure, I could do that. And then she looked at me like, you serious? Like, yeah, no, it's not a big deal. So I got a cup for her the first day, and then I got a cup for her and Gail the second day. So that was kind of one of those things where it was awesome. And also Rosa fed me chips just because she could. So you never know what kind of interactions you're going to get in wrestling. That was one of those interactions where I thought, okay, there's no way that I can literally, pass this up or ever forget this. It was a once in a lifetime deal. But you never know. You might even have a situation where Scott Steiner literally says, I'll do you one better. You're a pretty big guy. Let me put you in the Steiner recliner. I don't know why Scott Steiner went to a Taz accent. I'm sorry. But
I mean, honestly, I would allow Steiner.
Put you in the Steiner recliner while Rick is in the background just barking.
Well, see, Steiner recliner was a move I was going to do, and I should tell him that. And he'd be like, "Well, let me tell you how to do it properly."
I would love to see that.
But no, actually, I was looking at what their sites have and what they have, what kind of panels. I know they have like meet and greets you have to pay for, but I'm sure you can talk to them and still get pictures with them without having to do that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the second Starcast that I went to was a panel to was a panel for Cody Rhodes where he talked about stuff with wrestling, and I was lucky enough to get to ask him a question. And one of the cool things was, and I keep saying this because it's awesome, is that he literally made it feel like you were the only two people in the room. He literally just made eye contact directly at you when you asked him the question. And it was really cool to see that kind of respect from him. And literally I took a picture with him like a day after for a picture of him and his dog Pharaoh. I remember that. That was so cool. But I just love those really big time wrestling deals because you get the chance to meet so many great people and you get the chance to really, have memorable moments. And I'm so happy that, you guys get to experience that. And I'm honestly hoping that you guys have just as good, if not better moments than I've experienced at Starcast in the past.
Well, the one thing is that for one day it's $39 a person, which is like $80, which isn't like terribly bad. I mean, it was the Transformer convention, and then the month before that's more expensive than that one. So, so I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, who? I was one of those people. I wanted to see who was all going to be there, and now I heard that Ken Anderson, Luke Gallows is going to be there now. All the original Horsemen, J.J. Dillon, Tony Blanchard, and Arn Anderson, and Ric Flair, and Magnum PI. Magnum's going to be there. There's a lot of. I was like, man, there's like Bret Hart, Foley, and Nash. I was like, man, okay.
I know it definitely gets a lot really overwhelming sometimes, but once you get into it, it just kind of feels like home. It feels like you're meeting people that share the same kind of passion that you do. I actually have one guy that I met through a Starcast who's still a friend of mine. I believe he's actually engaged now, so it's really cool to kind of see that. And there's some people that you just meet there that you just literally think, wow, even if it's just like a brief moment where you share like a common like a common bond, it's really just cool to see that, because we not only get the chance to see the brighter side of wrestling, but realize that there are some wrestling fans that don't have their heads up their asses. So that's one of the big positives I love about these WrestleCons.
If we do decide to go, one of my ideas is to go up to ask Mick. I'm gonna ask Mick Foley if he can do the mandible claw with the Sacco.
I know when I took a picture with him, I did the like a barbed wire bat to his head, but I don't know. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to do. I think I know that one person actually did fireman's carry to CM Punk for a photo. So there's some wrestlers I think they're going to be they're going to be very interested. I know Victoria / Tara, Lisa, she likes doing like crazy pics, like just like goofy crazy pics. So there are a lot of those wrestlers that are totally up for that. So if you can get that photo, oh my gosh, I would love to see that.
I don't know why, but when I look at Tara, Victoria, Lisa, Courtney reminds me so much of her. I don't know. It's just that maybe it's that craziness.
It might be like a slight resemblance, but maybe it is that same look in their eyes where you just see, something kind of ticking there, and there's clocks and gears that are moving that make you think this lady could snap somebody in half with like a flick of a switch. And yeah, no, I could definitely see that kind of deal.
See, the biggest now, I had a friend who was telling me, he was like, if you do go, don't when you talk to Bret Hart, don't ask him about Goldberg or Hogan. And I went,
can't imagine why.
Can't imagine why I would ask him about Goldberg. I mean, I could ask him who had a better super kick, Goldberg or Shawn, but I mean that would be a little too much there. So I mean, I wouldn't want to piss off Bret Hart.
No, I wouldn't want you to feel the revenge of Bret Hart either, because Vince already felt the punch from him, so you don't need to feel it either.
Hey, it'd be one of those things. You go on your social media, get a black eye. Hey, man, it came from Bret Hart, dude.
What'd you say to him? Oh, I asked who had a better super kick, Shawn or Goldberg.
No, but I think that this whole thing with Vince, though, I think that a lot of people are going to hate on him because obviously there's just that. It's the way the world is now. They have that whole, you're guilty now without really having evidence to. I mean, I'm one of those people. You got to be proven. If you got to be proven guilty, you have to have evidence to prove that you're guilty. Obviously, the board of directors have some kind of evidence. Obviously, this wouldn't be out here if it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that Vince is doing the right thing by retiring. I know that a lot of wrestlers said, "Wow, Vince will never retire. He'll be dead and still working."
Yeah, no, I definitely do see that too. I think there were people that were saying that he was going to die in that in that chair backstage, and it's one of those things where unfortunately we were proven wrong. But yeah, no, I think that once these allegations are done and done, life will definitely be different for Vince. But it's also going to be one of those things where I think it is going to be for, I don't even want to say for the better, because I think it's taken in a different direction. But it's going to be one of those things where, once this is all cleared up, I think for us, it's going to be one of those things where we're not going to have to worry about it, because justice will be served. And I think that the people that have been, done wrong will get their justice for this. So I'm very curious to see how these allegations go. Like you said, innocent until proven guilty, but I do agree that Vince is doing the right decision right now. So
The one thing I'm worried about him though is him being at the age he's at, and him retiring, and he starts to slow down. A lot of times, that happens to older people that once you stop, going around, you start to die a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully Vince doesn't slow down, that he still maintains something here. But I would not be shocked after all this if Linda does divorce him. I mean,
No, it wouldn't surprise me either.
that's kind of. Unless she just wants to stay with him and just being married but separated, which is not fun either. But it's a. I'm just. I'm not. I wasn't quick to judge. Like I was like you. I was in another. I saw another group on Facebook I'm on, and I saw them. It was 50-50. People were saying that, talking nice about Vince, and then there's some people who blame Vince for the reason why the territories went away. Like the guy Andre Cobil, I know Wheater Wrestling. He was a big fan of the territories, and they blame Vince for a lot of territories were dying. And there's some people who still have that kind of mentality to where they're like, "Hey, he's the reason why all these people went out of business."
Well, the facts are kind of there. He definitely did try to buy out all the territories so that way he could have a more expansion front for his programming,
Yeah.
and he succeeded. There's no denying that. Um, Now I understand, why people say that, because that does mean that they're the only big name in there, so they're the only ones that have wrestling. But now we're back, kind of at square one right now in the wrestling world, where we have so many promotions that we can enjoy, uh, we can tune into. So there's no reason for them to make that claim with Vince McMahon anymore, because has he bought out Ring of Honor? No. AEW did. Did he buy out AEW? No. Did he buy out Impact Wrestling? No. Did he buy, just for those that might be fans of this, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla? No. He definitely did not. He probably bought Evolve, but other than that, there really hasn't been that many territories or industries that he's really bought. So I think right now, the idea that you had earlier, where you're talking about the crossovers with Impact Wrestling, AEW, Ring of Honor, maybe even New Japan, it could very well happen. And I think once that does happen, that is going to create some really good dream matches for a lot of people. People have been wanting to see Kenny Omega show up in a WWE ring for years, and it could happen. It could happen with a crossover event. We don't know, but we'll have to wait and see.
So, do you think, Nate, that the future of wrestling is kind of almost somewhat territorial? Like we'll see, like their champion versus this champion versus that champion, and
It's definitely possible. They definitely did that with the Forbidden Door, where they had basically AEW versus New Japan. Um, Eventually, I do see them be like a big super card where every promotion comes together and we see these dream matches. Uh, Eventually, do I think it's going to happen right away? No, I think WWE still has a couple of things that they have to clean up before they think about that big time deal. I think that if they can clear things up from now to about WrestleMania next year, then I think I'll be more confident with them doing like a super show. But I think there's still a lot of things that they have to do. They have to find a way to get their ratings up, to get their viewerships up, find a way to really reestablish and reconnect with the fan base that they lost. I think that's their first step right now.
I think another thing too is WWE didn't want to lose their sponsorships, and they also knew if Vince stayed on there. Vince is smart enough; he's a smart businessman. He knows that if he would have stayed on there, that eventually they would lose their Susan G. Komen breast cancer thing, and he knew that they would lose some of their sponsors. And he's like, "Well, if I leave now, you guys can keep your sponsors."
It's true. No
Now,
disagreeing with that.
people can say what they want about Vince, but good or bad, he is. He didn't he didn't become a billionaire by not being dumb.
No,
And
he's an entrepreneur. He is a creative genius, but he is also a devil. I think that's the best way you could describe Vince McMahon.
and Vince would probably agree with that. He's um I think that this whole scenario is Vince is probably hoping in his mind that this whole scandal and him leaving, he hopes, and I know how he is because his ego will tell you, he wants this to be about him. He wants this. If the ratings go up, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's because of me. I left it. Everybody here."
I took the bullet for everybody. Therefore, we're going to succeed and we're going to flourish more than we have before.
It'll all be because of me. It's Kennedy McMahon.
It was because of me, Austin. It was me all along.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. He's just going to be one of these guys that still thinks that, hey, ratings are good because of me. You know, you guys are. I mean, like the fact that he showed up on a SmackDown and Raw to didn't really say anything at all and just kind of showed up during these allegations kind of tells you how his ego is.
Damn right.
I mean, he probably does think that he's like, well, I got away from the federal government. I'll get away from this.
Yeah, so you think, Vince. So you think.
But the problem is the way the world is now, the way with this whole Me Too movement, I don't see him getting away from it like he did back in the 90s with the federal government. I think this is going to be a little tougher.
No, I definitely do agree with that.
I mean, if you don't know this, if you don't know how tougher it's going to be, ask Hogan.
That is very true.
I mean, regardless of what you want to say about that, I mean, he still, when he was hosting WrestleMania 37 in his hometown of Tampa, he was still getting booed.
That's true. It's very true.
I mean, there's no denying it. But I do think that we'll see some changes. I don't think we're going to see changes right off the bat. I think it's going to take a little bit. But any final words you got about the whole Vince McMahon thing, Nate? You think he'll be back though eventually, or you think this is him being done?
I think that we're not going to see like a big time like memorial for Vince McMahon like they did with Mae Young or they did with Dusty Rhodes or something like that. But I do think that he will be back at some capacity. And there's a part of me that even thinks that there could be a chance that he would be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. But as far as do I see him do like a full-time deal? No, definitely not. I don't. But in that same light, I still think that Vince McMahon is still, as I said before, a creative genius. He is a madman. He's a devil. He is one of the key points and key people that created WrestleMania, that created the big movement for sports entertainment and wrestling as it was today. Can't really deny the accomplishments that he had done with WWE, and there's no denying, the stuff that he has done in the past that has been shady. But like I said, he's done so much for the business, and he's going to try and support it as much as he can until his dying breath. So to Vince, I say you're one crazy SOB, but you're also a very successful SOB. And on the side of wrestling and sports entertainment, thank you for the memories that you have created for us, and thank you for the characters that you have given us on screen. Thank you, Vince.
I want to thank Vince McMahon for one thing. Thank God you didn't put Undertaker as Egghead. Mark Calloway as Egghead.
That too.
I mean, the thing with I'll piggyback on what you said, Nate. The one thing I'll say about this is I think that he will. Maybe now he can do that storyline where he gets blown up in the limo. Maybe he can actually finally do that and kill his character off. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he's probably crazy enough to do it. The one thing though, that Vince McMahon, the one thing I loved about him is his work ethic. I mean, he would do a storyline, and if he did something crazy or he did something goofy, he expected you to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Um, People can't deny how much his work ethic is. He's done some good things. I mean, he's not the. I mean, when you think about promoters in this business, um, he's right up there. Um, but the one thing I will say about this is that I think he will be. I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame, like Nate was saying. I think there will be a induction for him. Maybe not in the next couple years, but I think once Vince passes away, I could see an induction into the Hall of Fame. Um, Time will tell what WWE does. WWE will either do well without Vince or they'll struggle.
Yeah.
And and I wouldn't be surprised if they start struggling and they are losing money. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan buys it.
Like you said, only time will tell.
Time will tell on that. I mean, it'd be kind of bittersweet because they bought WCW, and it'd be kind of a little bittersweet if they did that. But I honestly think, though, if I'm not mistaken, but didn't Vince give money to ECW before they went out of business? Like he was helping them too.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
So I think in a lot of ways, I think WWE will be in good hands with Triple H and them. I think that, like we said earlier, I don't know much about Nick Khan to kind of give my opinion on the guy. I know that he wants all the big programs to be in stadiums, which we saw what happened to Money in the Bank. That didn't work. But I think this is a good chance now for these wrestlers to step up now and basically like, hey, you want that brass ring now. Vince ain't here to take the brass ring from you. This is the chance now. For any of you men and women in WWE, this is your chance. Grab that ring.
Agreed.
That's
100%.
100%. Grab that ring, because if you don't grab this ring now, you can't blame Vince McMahon for holding you back.
No, you cannot.
So, other words, though, I do like to thank Vince McMahon for the memories. I do thank Vince McMahon for giving us entertainment over the years. The fact that he put all of his money and they put all down payment on their house for WrestleMania 1, if that didn't succeed, they would have been out of business then. So,
ain't that the truth?
Thanks for giving us characters that we've grown to love over the years. And hopefully someday down the road, they'll do a Vince McMahon movie. I have to ask you that, Nate, before we go. Who do you think would be able to play Vince?
That's a really good question, because you want to pick somebody who kind of embodies the like craziness, but also kind of the business side of Vince McMahon. So that's a tough one. I think that is one that I don't have the perfect answer for. I really wish that I could pick somebody out that would really kind of fit the bill for that, but yeah, unfortunately, I got nothing.
One name comes to mind. I don't know why this guy's name comes to mind for me, but I can actually see Bradley Cooper, or maybe someone. I mean, I was going to say Leo, but I don't think Leo can do it. But
I think Cooper's more of a believable Vince, I think, than Leonardo DiCaprio. Nothing against Leo, but I think you're right with Cooper. I could definitely see that now that you mentioned his name.
I mean, because Cooper's good enough to get himself in the shape, and Cooper's also, if you watch if anybody's ever seen the first ever, Hangover, he's cocky enough and arrogant enough to play Vince.
Yep, no, I could see that now.
But that was the first name that came to my mind. I'm like, maybe Bradley Cooper. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's somebody else that I'm not thinking about, but I mean, if you guys see it in the comment section later and you see the video, you guys can tell me who y'all guys think could play Vince, because besides Bradley Cooper, I'm drawing a blank.
Same here.
I think what was this one? Prodigal Hill said Jason. Maybe
Maybe.
that could possibly do it. But anyways, though, I want to thank Leon for joining us earlier. I thank Nate the effing great for coming on here. It's a good thing too, Nate, that you're still doing your Impact Wrestling reviews, right? You're still doing your TNA reviews.
That is correct. Just a cheap plug for that. It's all part of a big group called Wrestle Addict Radio. The Twitter handle is addict_wrestle, where I joined the Kings of the Rings, Young Alliance Perspective, and Fretzelmania podcast. My show is called Brace for Impact, where I talk about a lot of impact related shows. I just got into the mid 2005s right now. Just reviewed probably one of the least favorite shows I've ever reviewed, that being Destination X 2005, and moving on from there. So check that out. Check me out on Twitter at Real Effing Game, as well as on the Instagram. Yeah, no, a lot of more beautiful things that are coming up. So I'm looking forward to talking about them. And Kev, thank you for having me on. And I'm looking forward to doing more stuff with you. I know we definitely wanted to do some more shows like this. So hopefully we can continue that.
I'm looking to do some wrestler bios, and I know that I wouldn't be able to. I know by myself I wouldn't be able to do a long bios for everybody. So I figured, hey, you do the. I'm trying to figure out who I want to be for the first bio. I thought it'd be kind of funny to stick it to KO and do Shawn Michaels, but it would be. And then basically had the default picture as Mike laying in the ring like Shawn Michaels. So maybe something like that, because I would like to do some bios and talk more about TNA, because I was actually a big fan of TNA, and they don't get enough credit than they get.
Yeah. No, maybe one of these days I'll have to have you on the show. So definitely stick out for that, guys.
Yeah. Anyways, though, hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. Hope y'all are staying cool. I know here in Nashville, it was what was it? Yet not 2 days ago, it was 90. It was like 92 degrees, but felt like 112. So
Oof.
hopefully, most of you guys, we big guys, we don't like the heat like that. But most of y'all, though, I hope y'all staying safe and everything like that. Like, share, and sub, guys. We are going to be. Any last words, Nate? You got or?
Be cool, be sweet, be respectful.
Couldn't said it better than myself. We are out of here.